Welcome to our regular iSpring webinar series where we discuss e-learning trends, share tips and tricks, and highlight client success stories. My name is Kate. I'm a community manager at iSpring, and I will be your moderator for today's session. And our webinar today is creating an online course. It's easier than you think. And today our speaker will guide you through the process of creating a course with iSpring Suite and help you unlock the possibilities for creating courses that go beyond mere information delivery. And now let me introduce you to our esteemed e-learning expert and your presenter for the day, Frank Bergdoll. Yeah, hi Frank. How are you doing
Hello, how's
today?
it going? How's everybody doing?
Yeah, we are feeling great, I think,
Awesome.
and can't wait to get started. Today, we have some people who aren't super familiar with iSpring. So here's just a quick word about our company. So for over 23 years, we've been at the forefront of e-learning software design, and we have 60,000 customers from over 170 countries. And many of them choose our award-winning authoring tool, iSpring Suite. And we are fortunate to have Frank with us today who has hands-on experience with iSpring Suite and who will show you its best features today. But before we start, Frank, I want to ask you some questions to give our viewers a better idea of our tool. So, Frank, could you please share with our audience how long you've been using iSpring Suite and the specific projects, maybe where you find it impactful?
So, boy, I have to think about when I first started using iSpring Suite. I wish I could say that I've been using it for 23 years because this would have absolutely have saved my life so many times because I would say about 4 or 5 years into using iSpring Suite. It's a fantastic tool. It's something that I wish I would have adopted a lot earlier. And I use it for a couple of things, and I'll talk about that in the webinar. We're going to do sort of a framework of how I build a course and how I use iSpring to do that. But I'll use it either to provide some pre-learning or some post-learning, and so that I can create an environment where when I'm working with my students, I can provide them with some information before or after a session, or even during a session, in order to engage them. And it's a fantastic product for that. I think I'm pretty excited to be here. I have to be careful because I can talk about it for a long time. So I'll have to make sure that I show you all the features and such that I can within our time frame. But it's a really good product. I've really enjoyed it. So I'm excited to share it.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. Um, it's great to hear that it had such a positive impact on your work. And just one personal thing. What's your favorite thing about our tool? Can you share, please?
So, there's so many features, you're going to see them, but one of the things that I really get a lot of value out of is probably not the one that everybody thinks about. So, what probably the best feature that people think about with iSpring is the ability to create scenarios where you can have a character speaking with a character. We'll show you that in a moment. But a very simple feature of iSpring that I really like is the ability to create an interactive document where I can put hot zones on it. So I'll show you that as well. So the idea is that I could create, let's say, I teach data science, I teach computers. So if I put up, say, an IoT device, a circuit board, I can actually put hotspots on the circuit board, and then the student can go in and go to that hotspot and receive a video or a diagram or an explanation of that object. So this allows my students in a lab environment, or, well, I'll talk about that during the seminar. So
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not, see, I
sure.
told you I could speak a lot about the tool. That's one of my favorite features. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. It's great to hear. And finally, let's get to the heart of the matter. Why is it easy to create a course with iSpring Suite? What do you think?
So, yeah, so I mean, this is part of this is on the marketing. This is the website says this. If you know PowerPoint, you know iSpring, but that's the truth, right? So it's a tool that it's a plugin. It's a standalone tool, but it's also a plugin for PowerPoint. And because we're so familiar with PowerPoint, this takes PowerPoint from being a series of informational slides into an interactive environment that you can then package as a course. And that's the power of it. So that's the benefit, and that's why it's so easy to use. So I really like the fact that it's a familiar tool that does unfamiliar things.
Yeah, thank you, Frank, for sharing your insights into using our tool. And I think it's time to get back to our main topic. So yeah, we will be in time frame. We're
Yeah.
we have some time limits, and yeah, at this point, I pass the mic over to you, Frank. You can share your screen.
Okay, perfect. I'm just going to share my screen here and we'll grab that. Okay, so can everybody see my screen? Let's see here. Oh, it's just loading up right now. So it's just going to take a second here and we're going to grab this here and I'm going to grab my screen. So whenever I do an online course or an online seminar, I want to look at you directly, but I have a computer in front of me and a computer to the side. So I'm going to share my screen, and that's the screen in front of me right here. So if I look off to the side, I'm not trying to ignore you. It's just that I've got to manage a lot of places to look. So are you guys seeing the screen? It says Excite, Enlight, and Ignite.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Are you
perfect.
perfect?
And
Okay.
should we share a handout now?
Yeah, so everything that you're going to see at this front part, I'm going to be using a whiteboard to go through some setup for what before we do the demos. So absolutely share out the handout. So you'll have a copy of this. So what you're seeing on the screen now, you'll have a PDF of this as well, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to just start in. So first of all, I'm really glad you're here. I saw a lot of people saying that they're from different parts of the world. Just so you guys know, I am from Calgary, Alberta in Canada. So right next to the Rocky Mountains. I live about 40 minutes away from the Rocky Mountains and Banff. So and that's going to come into play in a few moments because that's what we're gonna take a look at. Although we're going further west, we're going to the ocean. It's very exciting. So when we look at using a tool like iSpring, where we want to create an online course, we need to first ask ourselves what's the purpose of our course and sort of some design. And if we think about our course before we start building it, we're going to have a better experience. So I'm just going to spend maybe about 3 to 4 minutes going through the structure of how we're going to utilize iSpring. And then I'm going to spend the majority of my time demonstrating the tools so that you can get a sense for it. And I'm going to be upfront in that the goal of this is that you walk away from this webinar with a new tool that you can use to teach more effectively. And that's whether you're an instructional designer, whether you're a teacher, whether you're looking at building an online course to share your passion, whatever it is, I want you to look at iSpring as a useful tool to do that, because I've certainly found that to be the case. I'll also just briefly say I'm also I teach. I've been teaching for about 25 years, and I also over 25 years. And I'm a YouTuber, so I have Learning and Technology with Frank as my YouTube channel. I'll obviously provide you links to that at the end. But the goal of any type of engagement, any type of online learning, or any type of learning is to create excitement, to enlightenment, and ignite. And so I use the term excite, enlight, and ignite to motivate people to learn, to provide information to them for learning, and then to deliver on a promise, not just for the learning, but a transformation that comes from that learning. And I think that's an important element because in the age of AI, we can have all sorts of structured learning. We can go to Chat GPT and create all sorts of information dumps. But our goal in using a tool or an online course is to structure the information in a way that meets the learner where they are and to align it with their needs and to curate it in a way that it's useful. So I always think that's kind of an important thing. So when we talk about it, and there's a larger PDF of this mind map that I'll share with you. So I just generally what I do is I'll build out a little bit of a course design before I start using the iSpring suite, before I start creating the course. And this is your typical design, right? We'll have a number of objectives that we're trying to accomplish with our course. We'll set some sort of time frame for it. So whether we want to create a very short course for just-in-time learning, or whether we want to create a longer course that allows somebody to develop a larger skill, We'll generate our objectives, and then we'll do some evaluation. And generally, our objectives, our evaluation should match back to all our objectives. So this isn't going to be a webinar on instructional design, but understanding those few basics lets me get more out of iSpring. And then what we're going to do is when we look at this, we're going to ask ourselves, why are we creating the e-course? And this is an important framework that I always use when I'm working with iSpring. I ask myself, am I using this as something that I want to give the student or I want to give the employee before they do something? So is it a pre-work element where I'm trying to convey information in this exciting, dynamic way, and then I'm going to follow that up with some lab work or some practical work that they need to do? In the case of an employee, what are my performance objectives? What am I trying to get them to do better? In the case of a student, how can I maximize the time that we have together in a classroom or a laboratory? So it could be pre-work, typically referred to as a flipped classroom. Is it just-in-time learning? One of the things I'm going to show you with iSpring is that we can make a mobile course. So we can very quickly make a mobile e-learning experience where it could be a very short course, maybe just a few elements, but they can take that course with them as they're commuting, if they want to do it before they come into class, or they could take it on the job site. So let's say, for example, I have a procedure and I want to have a very short 2-minute tutorial on that procedure. I can build that in iSpring very easily. And then obviously, we might want to have a post-class review. So sometimes I break my students down into, I'll take my students and I'll say, this is the heart of what we want to do. This is the main learning that I want to occur. But we know that not everybody is going to be in the same place. So I want to make sure that I'm supporting students that need to catch up. And I also want to provide opportunities for students that might want to jump ahead and get some more information. And because the tool allows me to very quickly create content that's engaging and interesting, I'm able to use iSpring to support all of those objectives. One of the things that I like to do as well when it comes to building these is that a lot of times I'm answering the same question again and again in a classroom setting or in a workplace setting. So I worked in resorts before I worked in education. And I actually really wish I had iSpring when I was training staff in a resort environment because there's a lot of turnover, but that's another story. And then the big thing, of course, is that, it's mobile. So we have the ability to create mobile courses. So I'll set a target for the learning before I start using the tool. And then, of course, the tool is going to help me do that. So in this webinar, I thought what would be fun for us to do is to go for a hike. So we're going to go for a hike, but before we go on this hike, we're going to go on a multi-day hike on the west coast of Canada, on the west coast of an island called Vancouver Island. And on this hike, we want to make sure that the students that are coming with us, the people that are coming with us, are prepared for the hike. They're going to hike along the ocean. And what we want to do is make sure that, not all students are going to be going on the hike with us. So I don't want to take class time and I don't want to take time to, in the classroom to show them what they need to do to prepare for the hike because not everybody's coming along. But I also don't want them to be unprepared. So I've decided, what I'm going to do? I'm going to create some e-learning content so they can go through the e-learning content and then we can meet in order to prepare for the hike. And they're going to already have information that they need in order to take advantage of that preparation activity, that physical in-person preparation activity, so that when we go on the hike, everybody's going to have both information that they need about what's going on, they're going to have some skills that they've developed, and we're going to have a great hike and see some beautiful sights and hike along the ocean, right? So we want that foundational knowledge so we can use our prep time for practice as opposed to sharing information. And we're going to create the e-course. They'll need to be able to do these e-courses quickly because they're busy in their life as they prepare. But we also want to make sure that it's exciting and motivating. We want it to be exciting for them. We want to get the information to them that they're going to need. And then we want to turn or transform that motivation into action, ultimately resulting in a performance activity, which is going on a hike. So I hope that's exciting to everybody. And I hope you're excited to go on a hike with me. So we're going to begin before we start using the tool to define our course structure. I had that chunk of a mind map for you. And here's something that I'm going to recommend to you very, very strongly. You want to collect the resources before you start building the e-course. So you want to do things like collect any icons that you need, collect any images that you need, collect any videos that you need. And then a lot of times what I will do is if I'm using sources like, say, YouTube videos, what I'll often do there is I will go in and I'll create a notepad document of the URLs for all of the videos I want to do. And you'll see that in just a moment. Okay, so you'll see that in just a moment. And then what we're going to do is we plan ahead, we get the best results. We're going to put it in a framework where we have a purpose for the course, introductional material for the course. We understand who we're teaching. If there's any prerequisite knowledge, we want to put that into the course if we need to. And we want to give students the opportunity to skip sections, or we want to give students the opportunity to repeat things that are more challenging for them. Again, when we build an e-course with the iSpring suite, we can do all this, which is what I think is really cool. I'm not taking a bunch of different pieces. I'm assembling them into a nice e-course for them. And I want to get to the demo really quick, so I'll go through this fairly quick. One of the things that we get with iSpring that I think is very important is that we can have a consistent interface, something that the students can navigate and feel comfortable with, because that consistency provides comfort. We don't want the tool to stand in the way of the learning. And because the iSpring suite sits as a plugin to PowerPoint and we generate the course off of that, we generate something that's going to be familiar, but also exciting for the students. And as I create the content, I want to make sure that if I have, say, 4 modules, that each module would have something like, we're going to begin, I'm going to introduce you, you're going to do an activity, you're going to review that activity, and you're going to reflect on the activity. And I repeat that, intro, do, test, reflect. Intro, do, test, reflect, or whatever structure you would like. So you can modify that based upon your own instructional design objectives, right? That's kind of a traditional, right? Intro, do, test, and reflect. Sometimes I'll reverse some of these around, but I'll remain consistent. So a lot of times I'll introduce something and I'll immediately test the students. And you'd be like, wait, shouldn't you give them the information before you test them? That's the nice thing about iSpring is I can put in some very exciting, fun ways to test their knowledge. And then I can give them permission to fail because they can repeat the activity. And we'll see this when I do some of the scenarios. It's pretty exciting. So there's lots of different tools, right? PowerPoint's a very familiar tool. With iSpring, we can create quizzes and role plays and screencasts and interactions. At the beginning, what's my favorite feature? And I said interactions, whereas probably the most exciting feature is probably the role plays, I would say. Role plays are an exciting way to convey information, but the interactions are cool too, because I can have some object that I can have students work with. So that's a pretty handy thing. Okay, so our tool set's going to be iSpring, and I'm going to do a demo of that now. Just a little housekeeping here. I have this as a PDF for you, so you can, I have links here to my website, to my YouTube channel. I have a little whiteboard course, and I have the mind map of the full-size mind map of course design. Those are all on the PDF. You can check them out. But let's go ahead and let's take a look at iSpring and how we can use it in order to create a course. So, and I'm just looking over at the comments, so nothing coming up right away. Feel free if there's a comment. I think Kate's looking at the comments, so if there's something that comes up, let me know. So here's my day. I walk into my office. I need to create a course. I need to create something for people to learn something. We're going to learn how to hike. And this is what I'm faced with. I'm faced with a blank screen. And that can be pretty intimidating. Maybe if I'm lucky, I have a small slide deck of, the hiking skills that we're going to have. But you'll notice, again, it's PowerPoint, so it's a very familiar environment. I'm going to go into the iSpring suite, and you can just download it and install it. There's a trial version. There's a link on the PDF to the trial version. So you can grab the trial version if you're not already using it. And these are the tool sets that we can use in order to work with and create an electronic course. And specifically, what I like about iSpring is that one, it's still PowerPoint so I can use all of the PowerPoint features that I've become used to over the years of creating PowerPoint content, but I can enhance that content and it is consistent within iSpring. So if I create a quiz, I can insert images into the quiz. If I create a role play, I can insert images into the role play. So there's consistency within iSpring itself. So as you learn and practice using the tool, you will become proficient in the tool itself. It's quite fun to use, actually. Beyond just being useful, it's actually kind of fun. So if I go into iSpring Suite here, you'll notice that we have narration, so I can create audio. And sometimes, if you're doing something a little bit more robust, maybe you can get your friends to help you with the audio, or maybe you can even do Fiverr and have some people read some scripts. The big area here is the insert area, and that's where I'm going to spend some time. We also have the library. So there's an extensive content library with iSpring. And I'm going to go, that's how we're going to start. And so yeah, we'll take a look at some of the video settings in there as well. I just saw that in the chat. And so, yeah, so we can go in and we can work with the templates and the properties of those templates. We can set up presentations. So this is where I do the slide properties. So underneath the slide properties, we can make some changes there and some resources. And then once we're done building the course, we can publish the course. And of course, there's, what's new and updates. And there's also help. Like this webinar is great, but there's a ton of video tutorials. There's a really good community around iSpring as well. And, certainly I've made several videos on iSpring and intend to make more. Just let me know. So underneath here, we'll go into the insert. Well, first I'll start off actually with the content library. So this is kind of a boring presentation right now. Obviously, it's just a brand new blank presentation. So when I go into my slide templates here with iSpring, there is a huge amount of different templates that I can use. And I just have to drag them onto this screen. And you'll notice that there's a whole bunch of different templates for different feelings that you might have with the course that you're trying to create. One of the things that's a little bit newer here is you can also have templates geared towards a smartphone. So let's say, for example, I'm creating a course and the course is a very short course on how to work with XYZ tires. So tires for a car or a bike tire. Let's do a bike tire. That's fun. So let's say I want to have a little short course on how to change a flat tire on a bicycle. Well, I could have that on a smartphone. So if somebody has that in their pocket, they're riding their bike, poof, there goes their tire. Then they can bring up that little video to remind them of how to change a tire on a bike. Kind of a fun little video. I'm going to produce my course for a computer screen or an iPad screen. And you can see I've got different types of slides, openings and navigations and sections. Normally what I will do is I'll go down and try to find a template that I kind of like. We're going on a hike, so I want to try to find something. The sunrise is nice for a hike. There's ones with some characters in there, so I'm just going to go through, and when I find a template that I like, so if I'm just going to go down here, I'm going to do Highland, right? So that's the one I chose. And you'll notice the chevrons here, the arrows that will allow me to expand it. We have all of these different types of slides that are prepared for me. So what I'll do is I'll click on one and I'll press the control key and I'll just choose, I want a course title, I want a module title, a main menu, some objectives. Don't really need the definitions. I do want to have some images in my slides, some different types of images in here. And you can see I can go through and there's a major point. That's a nice way to emphasize something. You can always come back and grab any of the items that you may need as you're doing your presentation. But what I like to do is I like to build a structure, and then I can duplicate that structure. I'll do a timeline. I can duplicate that structure throughout the course. So I'm going to grab these elements, these templates. It's going to download them and put them into my PowerPoint. And this is going to create that structure for my course. And of course, it's PowerPoint. So For example, if I go in, it'll build all these elements in there, and just give it a moment while it downloads. I chose a few, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to be able to say, okay, the first slide is still my blank slide. So I'm just going to delete that. We no longer want that. And here we go. I'm already, pretty nice PowerPoint template, nothing terribly new there. But what I can do is maybe I want to grab the objectives and I hit control again and a couple of slides. I can just right click and copy those. And then I could paste those in as, my next module. So I can start building module 1, module 2, module 3. And by taking the time to build that structure, I can then add elements to make it more exciting. Now, as any good cooking show would have, I already have a cake in the oven. So let me go and bring up my cake in the oven. And this is my Take a Hike cake. So I've already gone through, and these are pictures that I took when I did this hike. So if you go in, you can always, it's PowerPoint. So if you go in, you can always go into here. I don't know this gentleman with the blue hat. So I can just click on the image, and then I could just go in and change the image. And this is where having your preparation done in advance is very important. So I've created a folder on my computer called the Hiking Club, and there I've got documents that I'm going to use in my course. I've got some icons that I want to use in my course, on and on. So in this case here, there's there's four, but there's three big trails that are on the west coast of the island. So I'm going to go to the West Coast Trail, and maybe, here's a photo I took while I was on the trail. I want to get my students excited. And I always recommend that you use your own photos. You use your own environment. So take out your iPhone, take pictures of your school, take pictures of your business, so that when people are seeing things, they're not seeing just the stock images. Those are placeholders. Want to make sure that they're seeing your images. So I'm going to go back to the cake in the oven. So grab that here. So you can see here, this is just, typical PowerPoint, but I can rearrange things. There's a few things like a continue button, and that'll be live when I create the e-course. But you'll see that the templates by iSpring are quite nice, right? That's not my image. So we'll go in there, and you can see that we can, I'm getting ahead of myself there. We have all of these slides here that I can then start using and structuring my course. So let's say, for example, and I usually go through and I'll replace all the images. So I've replaced all the images on the slides with pictures of the hike here. You can see, like, with a timeline, this is a great way to, get students excited about what they're going to be doing on the hike here. So let's say I'm in a module here, and I've got, I've started a new module. So I'll just come up here and we'll grab that's the hike. So this is going to be a module. I'm going to copy this. So we'll go ahead and copy the module starter. In fact, so I'll copy the module starter. I'll go to where I want module 2 to start. So this is, and I'm going to right click, and I'm just going to paste that in. So I'll paste the slide in, and now I have, module 2. So I could say this is going to be module 2 if I could spell today, module 2 of the course. Okay. And, I can put in some words in here. Because I'm limited in time, I am both talking quite quickly and I'm trying to get through a lot of material. So this is being recorded, so you can always come back and watch. But I put in the module there, and then I can come in and I can put in a new slide. And when I go in and create the new slide here, I'll get this nice blank slide. And now we're going to start seeing the power of iSpring. Because now what I can do is I can insert different elements. A lot of times when I start a module, I might want to start with, say, an interaction. And if I go in to create an interaction, it'll open up a separate iSpring visual tool where I can go in and create this interaction. This is, again, my favorite type of thing. And you'll notice that I have interactions like process interactions. There's a number of templates here that are fun to explore. One that I might have is, say, a hotspot. And what this is going to allow me to do is put an image into the course, and I'll be able to create an interaction around the image. It'll come up and it'll say, okay, you're going to create this interaction. And you'll notice it gives me a picture of a motorcycle, but I'm going to change that image. And again, this is where the preparation comes in. You could grab it from a clipboard if you did a cut and paste, but I've gone in, I've created the folder, and in my folder, I'll go to my hiking club. Underneath my hiking club, I have some maps. So I'm going to create a map of Nootka Island. This is an island on the coast there. And you'll notice here that there's some objects on here. There's 3 objects. I'll just bring them over into the ocean here so you can see them a little better. I have a circle, so you can have a hotspot, right? You can add a rectangle, an ellipse, or a polyline, right? So you can actually select the areas of this image where you're going to put the hotspots. I'm going to just choose the hotspot and just clean them up. I'm just actually going to delete them and leave. You have to have at least one hotspot, but let's say I want to go in here and I want to put the hotspot over here. And what I want to do then is this is hotspot number 2, so I can change it. And I could say, for example, flying to the trailhead. So this particular hike, you have to take a float plane to the trailhead. And then I could put in some verbiage in here, right? So I'm just obviously, just as a demo, you put in some really good verbiage in here and you have all of your formatting controls. So you can make this a very nice description of this hotspot. And then you can add elements in here. So for example, if I wanted to go into my insert menu, I could insert a picture. And then I could put a picture to be with this hotspot. So you can go in, you can put pictures in here, right? So I'm just going to go here and we'll grab hiking club. This was Nootka Island, I think. Yeah. So I'm just going to go in and grab some photos that I've downloaded. So I already pre-downloaded these photos and we'll throw a float plane in there, right? So now I've gone in, I'm inserting an image in there, takes a few moments. And the idea is that I'm creating a way for students to interact with this image. When I go in, you'll see that I have the image in there. I can do all sorts of things like add characters in here. I can do things like add different text elements. I could add a video in here. So the student in the e-course is going to be presented with an activity to start the module. In this case, an interaction activity. So they're going to be able to go in, they're going to be able to interact with this map image, or they're going to be able to interact with an image of a circuit board or a plane or a bicycle. And then you can see, so I have this image in here, and now I could add multiple hotspots. So we take a plane to get to the trailhead, and then maybe I want to add a new hotspot, right? So I'll go in here and we'll add a new hotspot. Maybe this one is going to be a rectangle. And up here, this is the trailhead. So I want to go and put the hotspot up there, and we'll say, this is the trailhead for this. And I'm just, again, being very quick to try to do this. I could put in multiple hotspots. For example, on our hiking trip, maybe I want to put a picture of the equipment that we're going to use. And on each piece of equipment, I want to have a page come up that describes the equipment, maybe describes how to take care of the equipment. Maybe I'm even going to insert a video in here that shows a YouTube video on how to use the equipment. And this is all quite easy, right? I can then preview this, so I can preview what it'll look like. Obviously, this is a little bit simplistic, but imagine the time you put into building this interaction can be very valuable to someone that begins the module by clicking. We don't want that passive, passive PowerPoint experience where it's just like click a slide, read a slide, click a slide, read a slide, click a slide, read a slide. We want to use iSpring to create excitement and interactions and such. So if I go in, notice here I can preview. If I click the hotspot, it gives me whatever I had on the trailhead, and I'll go to this hotspot. So I'll click on this and notice it's got my image of the plane that we take to get to the trailhead. Now we can go in and continue to edit this item. One area that is important is the properties. So underneath properties, if I can go in here, you can see that I can choose how it behaves. So we had a question in the chat, I think, about videos. So we can go in and choose how videos behave by going into the properties, right? Things around size and color schemes. So if you're especially in a corporate environment, if you want to maintain brand kit awareness, you can create a brand kit with color schemes and then utilize that color scheme throughout all your training. So that's a very powerful thing as well. And I'll just apply and close that. And that's the key, is you want to apply and close it, but we're still on here. And I'm spending a bit of time on the interaction. But what's really nice is that this menu is very consistent through all the iSpring tools, and you'll see that. So now I'm going to go in here. Of course, you can insert, you can format text. Hotspots are unique to interactions. So I'm going to save it and return it. And now what I have is I now have inserted onto this slide, I have a interaction that is here. Now, for me, it looks like this, but to the student, it'll just be the hotspot image, and we can modify it, and it's still PowerPoint, so I can still go in and do PowerPointy things with it. But the idea is that becomes a much more exciting way to begin the module. Okay, so for example, I have this one here. This is a very simple interaction where all they have to do, can you spot the bear? They click on the bear, right? So there's an example of making that more interesting. And then I might have some, this is Shuswap Falls on the West Coast. I could say we're going to camp right next to these waterfalls. We're going to do this and do that, and then so that's more information. So you can say, we're going to climb ladders. We have to be careful, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe I want to break that information with another exciting, element. Maybe now I want to do a quiz. Now, with a quiz, traditional quiz builder in some ways, but with a lot of features that are very useful. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new, I'm on the interactions here. Let me go and close that. I want to go in, right click, and we're going to create a new slide. So I'm going to create a new slide. But this slide, so it gives me this blank slide, right? Notice it builds it off of the previous slide. So I can just clean that up. Sometimes I'll just create a blank slide that I use. So I'll just clean up those dialog boxes, nice blank slide here. And then I can go in and maybe I'll make a quiz. And when I use the quiz builder, I can build a quiz and I'll go in, but I could build a graded quiz, or I could just do a survey. So sometimes, as we're going through, I want to maybe do some spaced repetition within the time frame that I have. I want to reinforce concepts, whatever the case may be. I can go in, I'll do a survey. So I'll go ahead and do a survey here, because maybe now I've had them interact with the map. I've shown some things that we're going to do on the hike, and now I can start adding questions. And when we work with the slides, I can have an info slide to start things off, right? Welcome to the quiz, or, test your knowledge. I try to make it a little bit more fun, watch out for ... Maybe I'm going to do a survey on bears, right? And the description is, are you safe around bears? Are you safe around bears? Which basically boils down to make a lot of noise and don't leave food out. But anyways, so we can go in there, and that's an intro slide. And then I can go in, and you'll notice that I have a huge question bank. Not a bank of questions, but more styles of questions, including even a hotspot. So I could have a hotspot where I have, select the item that you need most, or you need to be most concerned about when it comes to bears. And it could be, you need to be concerned about them, attacking your boots, or you need to be concerned about them trying to get your food. I think we all know what the answer to that one is, right? Bears like food. And so we can go in, we can have sequencing where we can move, there's a really nice set of variety in the types of questions we can have. So because we have so much variety, I'm just going to do a basic multiple choice. But you could do all sorts of drags and drops and all sorts of cool different quizzes. And the question is, are bears dangerous? And then the answer would be, yes, they are, so I can go in, and option one is, yes, they're dangerous. And option two is, no, you can pet them. And then option three will be only if you, don't practice the right activities. So bears are not particularly dangerous. You just have to make sure that that you're safe around them. So in the information, I maybe said, here's what a bear does, and here's, or here's how we're getting to the trailhead, whatever it is. And now I'm just going to reinforce it with a little quiz here. But here's a very cool thing. I can add audio to the quiz. So I could actually have this as a quiz where what is this sound? And I could have the sound of a seagull. I could have the sound of a whale with its blowing air into the sky, and I have the sound of a bear eating berries, right? So I could have identify which sound is a bear, right? And it could be sound 1, 2, 3, and have sounds in there. Or I could even put an image in there. So I could pop in an image in here, and I could be, here's an example of a bear that's not dangerous. So I can put an image in there, and this is just a bear skull, right? So again, it takes a little bit to upload the image, but that can make your quizzes more inclusive, and that can make your quizzes more interesting. So sometimes if we have that standard multiple choice quiz, or even, drag and drops and such, if we can use audio and if we can use visuals, iSpring allows us to make those pretty exciting. So we can put those in there. It'll take a few moments it's uploading this image. I think I probably have pretty high res images here. So there we go. So there's a little image in there of a bear. Again, all of the different things that we saw with the interaction, many of those are available here as well. Inserting sounds, inserting images, right? Going in, we can duplicate questions. We can put groups of questions together. With the time frame that we have in the webinar, I can't go into super detail on any specific feature, but certainly let me know if you're interested in a deep dive on any of these. I can maybe put that somewhere else in the community, or in on a channel, on my YouTube channel, or whatever, right? So we can go in and you can see that I can really control it. But notice we have some things that are the same. We can format the text. So we have those formatting controls. We can work with video and audio. We can do, this is a neat feature. I didn't show you this in the interaction. You can export the text, have it translated, and then import it so that you can actually have quizzes and such. You can take your course and make it available in multiple languages without having to rebuild it for those other languages. You'll have to do some work, obviously, but to be able to export, translate, and then import is going to make life a lot easier. And then this is, again, the properties are very important. So here we can go in and we can say, what are the general properties? It's called Untitled Quiz. I'll call it Bear Quiz or something. So you can give it a name and you can reuse your quizzes. So you could also share with fellow people using iSpring as well. Okay. And if we go in here, you can have scoring. So in this case, there's no grading on this, or it could be a pass fail. You could go into the properties of the question. So how many points do you get for a question? You can also provide feedback. So let's, in my course here, this isn't intended to be a course that you get a grade on. It's intended to be a course that provides information so that you can be successful on the hike. You pass the class by hiking along the ocean. And so here, maybe I want to say something, that's right, or maybe I want to, if they're partially correct, or try again. You can motivate students to do these multiple times, right? You can have a list of questions in here, so you can import questions, and you can get reporting sent to you by an email to send to the user so that they can get feedback, or they can, keep track of what's happening. And that's all in the properties. We can also go in and modify how the player works. So when it plays the quiz, we can go in and we can, change things like, are we going to show the question number? Or are we just going to have unstructured questions without numbers? A list of questions. So we can control how the quiz plays, including how we navigate, and the color schemes and items around those lines as well. So you can see how quickly I was able to create a quiz. I'll save those changes. See how, and I can preview it if I'd like. So I always tend to preview, obviously, before I do anything. And needless to say, I would have more questions. I would I would add more visual elements to the questions and make them more exciting, right? So we would go in here. I can also preview all of these, whether it's going to be on a computer, whether it's going to be in a tablet landscape or portrait, and a smartphone as well. So this is what the quiz would look like. And then I can see, okay, maybe this is the question, say next, and it says, okay, I'm going to submit my questions. Thank you for the survey. So I did as a survey. So I'm going to go and put that into the course as well. I hope what you're seeing here is that by utilizing these elements up here, I'm really able to create a pretty exciting course. I'll just create another new slide here. I can create those interactions, those quizzes. I can also do a screen recording. So there's a screen recording tool in here. So for example, I created a screen recording here. And with the screen recording, I just did a little recording. You can always come back to the screen recording, and you can go to the screen recording in iSpring here and go back to screen recording, come back and edit. So when you've done a screen recording, it can record your audio, your video, and then what you're able to do is you actually have a little editor in here where you can go in and you can edit, including, this is a feature I absolutely love, is when I do a screen recording, it's capturing what I'm doing with my mouse and my keyboard. So for example, here, I clicked and I dragged. So it says you clicked and dragged. Here it said that I clicked and dragged. Here it said, so you can see I can go through the different elements and I can see exactly what I did along the way. I did a lot of clicking and dragging, but I also pressed like Control Z to undo something. So I could remove that, I can edit that, and I have the ability to take that screen recording and then put that into my presentation, into my e-course. Other things I can do, let's go back down here. I can go in and on this blank slide, again, I could clean this up. I usually do, just because I don't like, it doesn't show, but I just like to have a clean slide. And then what I'll do is I can do things like add a role play in here. So I hope you're starting to get a sense of all of the different elements that are part of iSpring and how each of these can be used very quickly to create this online course. The role play is one of the best parts of iSpring. It's probably a lot of people's favorite feature because it allows me to have the student, the learner, go in and test things out. They can go in and they can say, if I said this to a customer, what would be the reaction? If I said this to a coworker, what would be the reaction? So when I open up the role play, I'll go into a new scene here and I can go into my characters. So one of the things that's really powerful with iSpring is they have a huge library of different characters in different poses. There's a number of built-in ones. You say, oh, that's quite a bit, but wait till you go here. When you go to the content library, you'll go to the iSpring content library, and they're always adding new characters in here. You can see that I recently used Earl because Earl has an outdoor shirt on, right? So he was a good choice for my outdoor hiking. I can and I can filter by things like photos or illustrations, male, female, age range, clothing types, ethnicity. I can go in, it has people with disabilities as well. So I can have a wheelchair or a cane. Maybe I'm doing some training on how to assist people with a disability to come into the hotel. So I could have that and things you say or wouldn't say to somebody in a wheelchair when they're coming to the hotel. So I'm going to grab Earl. I'm going to grab him and insert him in. And now Earl is going to be part of my presentation. And in this role play, right, I can go into the character here. So I can change the emotion of the character. I'll just go ahead and close this. And oh, I forgot to put Earl in there. So we go in here. I can also change the background. So underneath the background, you'll notice a lot of my images are here. And then if I scroll down, there's a number of built-in images as well for common scenarios, like a car park or a hotel or a classroom, a grocery store. There's just tons of different ones that are provided by iSpring. But I do find that it's very useful for myself. If you use this button up top here, you can actually go in and you can load in your own images. So again, this is where having prepared in advance, right? I'm not going to put a video in there. I could go in and I could say, let's put in, this image here. This is a whale by the ocean. So I want to have a conversation with somebody with a whale in the background. I've already got a number of images in here. So let's say, for example, I want to do a little interaction around ladder safety. I could choose that as a background. I could choose my Earl character in there, and Earl begins happy. He's a happy guy. And now I'm going to close that, and you'll notice I have a happy Earl. I have a background image of some ladders that we're going to climb when we're hiking. And Earl's going to say, welcome to ladder safety. Big issue when you're hiking on some of these trails. You have to be safe around the ladders. They can get wet and slippery. And he's very happy. And then I can go into the properties and change some color schemes there. But this is my initial welcome screen for this particular role play. And then I can add replies. So I could add a reply, hello, Earl. And I could add another reply, I don't like heights. Oh, typing today. I don't like heights. So now when I put this into play, you'll notice that I get this tile here. First of all, it's giving me a warning that there's no links to a certain reply, and it's saying here that I'm starting the scene. You'll notice these little icons I can just drag. So this one is hello Earl, and Earl says welcome. And that's all and he's gonna be just neutral, normal. So I'll close that, and now I have a reply for when they click hello Earl. I can drag this down, and this is heights. Don't worry, we will, whatever. We'll show you how to deal with heights and such. And he's going to just be no, he's not puzzled. He's going to be normal. I could make him angry, but he's not going to be angry that you don't like heights. I can make him unhappy. That's really good for customer training. But maybe he's going to be friendly and say, don't worry, we'll show you how we can deal with heights. And then maybe I'll add a reply. And now when I close this, you'll notice that this has a link. So I can start having branches in the role play. And this is a great way to really engage a student at the online course. Again, we want to get away from that passive PowerPoint, PowerPoint, PowerPoint. And in here, what I can do, which is quite interesting, is I can say, whatever the case may be, I'll just say, don't worry. I haven't thought out the course completely here, but again, don't worry, and we'll make him kind of neutral there. Okay, so we'll close that. Then I can preview this. Now, again, you can do a lot of interesting things in terms of adding voiceovers, again, with the translation and with properties, how it the characteristics and how the player works. But this is what a role play might look like. So we go in here, Earl comes up, welcome to the ladder safety. And then I say, hello, Earl, and that ends that interaction, right? So I'll finish that. Now, if I want to play it again, actually, I'll play it again. We'll go through the other branch, right? So I'll say, I don't like heights. Now, Earl is going to say, don't worry, we will, blah, blah, blah. And then the response there would be, don't worry. It was a pretty simple interaction. But if I go here into the player, there's some great features in the role plays here that can make it really kind of useful, right? So if I go in here, for example, maybe I don't want this emotion meter up in the corner here, so I can remove that. I could give an interaction here, so I could put the title here, ladder safety. I could do things like if I go into the background and navigation, they can prompt to resume, or it always resumes, or start over, whatever might happen with it. So after I do the interaction, it could start over. I could go in and set a color scheme, of course, and text. But this is where I can really set the properties of whether somebody can practice multiple times. Again, I'll apply it and close. Now I will go through and push that into the slide deck. And now I've created an interaction. So you can see that I've got all of these different elements that I can put in here. Now, in some ways, I've only just touched the surface, but as you can see, I've created a course that isn't just that PowerPoint after PowerPoint. By using the iSpring suite and inserting different elements into the presentation or into the course, I've created something that's more interactive, something that allows people to test their knowledge, something that allows people to role play through situations and scenarios. And just in the sake of time here, I don't have a ton of time to show you all of the features, but there is more things like we can add characters. So this slide is kind of boring, right? It's the course objective slide. Maybe I want to make this slide a little more exciting. I can go into a character library by clicking characters. Again, I could sort. So let's say, for example, I wanted somebody who's, in the range of an adult. Maybe I want a female character. This one's even more interesting because you can choose clothing styles. So I want them to be either casual or in sports clothing. And, I could do ethnicity again, a wheelchair disability, cane disability. And this is a neat one here as well. You could say they're pointing. So because I want somebody pointing, check it out. I could go ahead and I could add to the slide Sophie. Hello, Sophie. So Sophie is going to say, here's the objectives that you're going to accomplish. But maybe I want Sophie on this side. I can scale Sophie, right? So I could scale Sophie. And this is a trick that a lot of people don't know, or it takes a while for them to know. Maybe I want her pointing the other way. Just grab the bar here and you can spin Sophie around, right? So you can spin Sophie around. Of course, you'd want to clean up where the objectives are, but this adds a lot more personality and life to your e-course. Finally, what we can do is once we've played with all of these features, inserted YouTube videos, created web connections, we can preview the course. So we can take a look at the course and we can go in and see what it looks like. Again, we can choose the properties of the slides, or we can choose how the slides play. And it's going to process these slides and build the e-course for me. And when I build the e-course, it takes a few moments to prepare and process the slides, but that's always a good excuse to get a cup of coffee, right? So you can get your cup of coffee. And then what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to publish this to an LMS. There's the iSpring LMS. There's your own personal LMS if you have one, but there's a whole suite of iSpring tools that you can publish the course to. Now, again, I got excited about iSpring and I went through a lot of the different elements. I could probably go on for at least another 2 hours refining and refining what we're doing here, modifying publication settings, looking at the other part of the iSpring suite. But my goal today was just to show you how easy it was for me to just open up PowerPoint, grab iSpring, and create an e-course. This isn't a great e-course because I haven't put, it's going to take some time to put the effort in, gather the resources, but I'm certainly well on my way to creating an e-course that's a lot better than just a dump of information. I have students interacting through an interaction. I have them role playing, and I have them working with the material to really hopefully understand what it is that I can then reinforce so that we can have a nice hike. So I think I've kind of gone over here. I'm about 1 minute away. So I was hoping to take questions and stuff, but there you go. So Katie hasn't pulled me off the stage with a hook yet, but she's about to maybe. Sorry, Katie, I got pretty excited there. I would love to do this. Can we just go for another hour?
Not today, I think, but yeah. I just busy with a lot of questions in the chat. So that's
Okay,
why I'm not interrupting you.
no worries.
So you finished, yeah? Uh,
Yeah, I'm done. So I could go on, like I said, but I saw the clock is now 10 a.m. So my time. So it's been an hour.
yeah, yeah, no worries. I think we will definitely have another webinar again where we continue this great presentation as I see in comments. Thank you,
Oh,
Frank,
thank you. Thank
for
you.
this. Yeah, that was great, and a lot of practical information. And before we start the Q&A session, if you can stay longer, I want to ask you to fill out the survey about the webinar. I will share a link in the chat right now. And yeah, I just saw a lot of questions. I think we won't able to answer them all now, but we will be sure um, to write you by your email. So we will return to you, and you also can leave your questions in a survey that I've shared. Um, so there was a question. One moment. From Tiffany. So, what about self-paced course where students want to interact together? How do we make it interactive and engaging? I think today
So
we talk about this self-paced course. Yeah.
yeah, so the beautiful thing about the iSpring, by creating an e-learning product, I can allow a student to self-pace through the material. If I was in an instruction, like doing this for classroom instruction, I would allow them to self-pace at home. And then when they came into the classroom, I'd have them discuss what they learned. This is a beautiful thing because a student, my dad always said, you might not get it the first time, but if you don't give up, you'll get it. So maybe for me, I need to go through that course 2 or 3 times, and another student does it once. they can do that outside of the classroom. And then when we use the classroom or use the training center, they can then discuss it and they're all on the same page at that point. And I think that's one of the best things about a tool like this is that it's not just read the book. It's like interact, have some fun, work through it at your own pace. But then I do believe that we should have collaborative opportunities. If we're doing it remotely, then that collaboration should be through maybe Microsoft Teams or maybe through a community on the LMS or a Discord server. If we're doing it in real life, then of course it's the flipped classroom scenario. Great question. And boy,
Yeah,
that's a great thing to do. Yeah.
yeah, thank you for answering. Like
Yeah.
it's my story too about repeating and yeah. There are like some more technical questions here.
Yeah.
So there is a question from Yvonne. Can you build pauses in the resource to break between modules or topics?
So I didn't catch the one part of that, but so you can define, if I'm correctly understanding the question, you can define sections between the courses, right? So I usually do that by module. Sometimes I'll build multiple courses and then I'll have one course linked to another, right? So you can go through stages. So you can do that as well. And then, of course, I didn't catch the one part of the question. Was it a specific type of export that you were looking at?
Um, Specific part.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Ivan, can you write in chat if you have some addings to your question so we can answer that?
Just while Yvonne's doing that, I'll say one of the keys that I think a lot of people miss when it comes to iSpring, and I tried to emphasize it, is everything you create has a properties button. And properties are how it behaves. So it'll either have a property button or a player button or both. So, for example, I showed you in the role play how I don't particularly like the emotion meter. That's a great tool if you're trying to walk somebody through a customer service scenario. But, for my bare safety, right, it doesn't work. So I can remove that emotion meter by going into the properties of the player. And things like controls, right? Um, that's also kind of an important you can control what's being shown. So, okay, can you put breaks that allow the student to work at their own pace? So, what I would do is I would probably, if I have an issue where I have a lot of volume and students are overwhelmed by the amount of volume, I might break it down into multiple courses. So, I try to make a course that could be done in, say, 15 to half an hour, 50 minutes to half an hour. And then rather than have one big 3-hour course, I might break it down into separate courses. So that part one, part two, and that kind of gives you the ability to have them work at their own pace, right? If that answers the question,
Yeah, I
it's
think,
just
yeah.
that's organizational more. Yeah. I'm a big fan of just-in-time learning, and I'm a big fan of short, tiny little courses. Because I'll give you another saying: How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So the idea is that if you can break it into little bites, that's going to be better from the standpoint of cognitive load. And generally, I try to have it so that they can do pomodoros on this. So I try to make nothing that is longer than, for younger students, nothing longer than 10 minutes. As the students get older, nothing longer than 25 minutes. I want them to complete. I'd rather do multiple courses.
Yeah, I think microlearning is like a new trend.
Yeah.
So, um, I saw some questions about rewatching this webinar. Yeah, we have a recording and we will send to all of our participants. So yeah, please wait for tomorrow. Yeah, and mm, yeah, I saw a question from Carlos. Can I have my course check for something in the internet and then go to specific slide based on that? Um, like, can we go from the course to by follow some link and then return? I think
Yeah.
it's
So I
possible.
didn't
Yeah.
I didn't show the publishing because we were just a bit short on time. But when you publish, you can publish to multiple locations. So you can publish to an iSpring page, the iSpring LMS. You can even publish to YouTube, but you'll lose your interactions if you do that. But you can publish with all of the standard educational things like SCORM compliance and such. If you publish to those resources, then as you navigate through the internet, there'll be at the top, there'll be a URL. So you could copy that URL and that would give you the specific page within the course because they'll have unique URLs as you navigate through the course. That's a little bit more advanced, but yeah, again, if there's specific advanced features, I'm sure iSpring can help you with that. You can also, I guess, comment. I don't know how you contact me. You could go to my YouTube channel and comment in one of my iSpring videos. Just come say, Frank, show me how to do this, and I'll make a video for you. How about that? Right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
But
And
iSpring will take care of you. The community's really good as well. Yeah.
yeah, you always can write to our email. I will share it again just right now. And there's a comment from Carlos that he meant the check, like the check for the existence of that file. So
Ah.
yeah, so we go to slide 5 if it exists, and to slide
Oh,
7 if the file doesn't exist.
so it's not super intuitive, but what you have to remember is that iSpring sits on top of PowerPoint. So anything you can do with PowerPoint, you can do with iSpring. I showed it at the very beginning when I just changed the image, but you can do things like hide slides, right? So I would have to figure out in PowerPoint to do a navigation in there, but it should theoretically be possible. Because I haven't done it, I don't like to say yes, but I can, in my brain, I can already start seeing how I might do that. And it's not using the iSpring features, it's using the PowerPoint features. Because remember, iSpring sits on PowerPoint. So things you can do, like one of the things I'll sometimes do is I love some of the iSpring templates, but I can go in and modify the color scheme with the PowerPoints. So I think we could do some navigation in there. I'm going to try that out. That's a really good question. My
Yeah,
short
yeah,
answer is
sure.
maybe yes. I don't know. Now
Yeah,
you've
need
given
the
me something to
research.
work on. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you give us a lot of ideas to develop, and we
Yeah.
should pass it to our developers for sure.
Yeah.
And there was a question about the certificate of attendance. Yes, we will send it with the recording, so don't worry. I think we actually ran out of time.
Yeah.
Sorry. If you still have questions, please contact us. Yeah, thank you, Frank, for like answering all of this, for
No
yeah,
problem.
for doing
I just
such
I I
fantastic
I
presentation.
just encourage people to just try it. It's so much fun. Like it's actually like it adds excitement to creating courses, which is kind of nice if you're. And it can really have a great effect on your classroom and on your training by providing people with resources so that they don't feel lost. They can do it and they can feel in control of their learning process. And that alone is worth the time that you put into it for sure.
Yeah, sure. And just one thing before we say goodbye. We have a series of webinars coming up soon, where will be 4 webinars about creating courses in PowerPoint and iSpring Suite. And there we will walk you through every button, every click, every setting you need to create a course. So you can find all the answers that you might have after today's session. I will share a link in the chat. If you're interested, you can just follow it up and register. And yeah, thank you again, Frank, for joining us today. And thank you, everyone, for joining us this hour as well. Hope you have enjoyed. Take care. See you next time, I hope.